This is the Significant Man Recharge Show. I'm your host, Warren Peterson. We're Christian men who talk about the important topics that matter in life. We're men who live in this world, but who are not of this world. You know your life can be busy, noisy, and chaotic. This is the show for you to get renewed, restored, and to recharge. So let's get started. Welcome, gentlemen. On today's show, I'm speaking with Alex VanHouten about the world of fitness, fatherhood, and faith, and how those are all interconnected. We touch on some very personal topics and some really important aspects that us guys we must understand. Now, Coach Alex is the owner and founder of two health and fitness companies, the Betterment Company and Defining Dad Bod. Through Defining Dad Bod, Alex helps moms and dads with cutting-edge nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle change. He also hosts the Defining Dad Bod podcast, which cuts through the confusion of the health and fitness industry weekly. Through the Betterment Company, Alex has launched an app called Better Daily, a private community for people who are committed to becoming 1% better every day. We had a great conversation, so let's jump right in. All right, well, Coach Alex, thanks for being on the show. I'm really glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here, brother. Happy Friday. Good to see you.
Yeah, same to you. So a fun quick story for our listeners, just about how small this world really is. For a little while, Alex and I were exchanging messages online. We kind of crossed paths in different communities and things, and realized that we live in the same town and literally less than a mile apart. And we got to go have one meeting and one nice lunch, and then I find out Alex is moving. And so I would encourage all you guys, if there's somebody you want to connect with, make that happen, because Alex, you and I probably crossed paths, drove in front of each other. Maybe I made you mad and you honked at me one time, who knows? But we were literally less than a mile apart for while you were living around here. And I think that's crazy.
It was super crazy. And we would have so many more lunches in the past 3 years if it wasn't for the fact that, we found out we lived down the street from each other right as I was moving.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh, great. New friend, good relationship. Oh, I'm leaving. Okay. All the best.
Good luck. Yeah. Happy trails.
Yeah. All right. So where I'd like to start here is I noticed in one of your Instagram posts, you mentioned a list of things that shaped you. And every one of those things to me was really inspiring. And I know there's a story behind all of that. But the one line that I really would love to start with, you have a line in there that says you found God in the mountains. I'd love to hear more about that. What's the story behind that?
Oh, man. Well, that could be a very long story real fast. So I'll try to keep it relatively short because I know we have lots of things to talk about. Let me know if you want to dig in deeper. But there was a time in my life where I was really struggling with my faith. I was brought up in a Christian community. And I think, those of us who are on the path to manhood, especially if you've got kids, there's a place where you have to make it your own, in the sense that you're not going to continue to walk with God by somebody else's faith. It's going to be something that you find with him of yourself. And so I actually went to the mountains, fasted, ready to pick a fight, because I was praying for my little niece. She was just about to turn 2, and she was also wrestling with brain cancer. And my attitude wasn't like, I'm going to go do faithful things and pray for healing and whatnot. It was like, God, how could you let little kids get brain cancer? What the hell is wrong with you? So what's cool about that, and what's strange about that, is at the time I would have told you that I didn't know if God really was there. So it's strange to be angry at somebody you believe isn't there, but it was a very real anger. And so I told my wife, I'm not eating until I get an answer to this. And she was like, all right, Gandhi. So I didn't. I was pretty fasted, and I went up into the mountains, actually Stewart Canyon, there at the Air Force Base. I know you're familiar with Colorado Springs. Stewart Canyon Trail is where I went there. And I went running, and I mean, it's altitude and I'm in pretty good shape, but dude, it was one of those like mad runs, and I hadn't eaten for 3 days. So I was not only mad running, I was also like depleted. And I don't know what happened. I think I fainted. I don't know what happened, really. I woke up in the canyon where, it was when was it? It was April. So the rest of Colorado was beautiful and sunny and not quite warm, but not really cold either. But in the canyon, it was snowy and icy. So I like woke up in this winter wonderland, and and man, the vision that I had, the dream that I had, if you want to call it that, it broke me, it wrecked me. And I did get an answer to the problem of my young niece, and it wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was also an answer that uh, that gave me peace, which is a very difficult thing to explain unless you've been something
Yeah.
or been through something that difficult. And so it took me probably a good year to unpack that and understand what it meant. And I actually got to speak at her funeral. I got to share that vision with my sister. That was her daughter that was going through that, and it was a deep source of peace and faith for our family. So I found God there, and I carried him with me after that, and no more wrestling with whether or not I was sure God was there. I knew he could take me at my worst and most
Right.
frustrated and most food deprived and pissed off and self-righteous and all those things, and he could still meet me in a way that brought peace and goodness. So that's what I meant by that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing story. Yeah, I didn't know that one, and I'm grateful that you're here to share that with us. And I like how you mentioned, one of the things, I'm bouncing around a little bit here in my mind, but one of the
Mhm.
things I think a lot of guys struggle with when it comes to faith is being authentic with God. And what I mean by that is we feel sometimes like, well, I'm not supposed to be angry. I'm not supposed to be mad. I'm just supposed to be grateful. I'm just supposed to be appreciative. I'm just supposed to praise. I'm just supposed to thank, and all those
Mm,
sorts of things. And yeah, we're supposed to do those, but God can handle all of our emotions. He can handle the angry side. He in fact, I think he wants it. He wants that real full relationship. And if we're trying to hide that part from him, that's just ridiculous because he knows anyway. But he wants to express it, share it, live it together. And so I like, I like that you're willing to go there, both in kind of that prayer world and in sharing that story with people, because I think sometimes people miss that point, that it's okay to have that full range of emotions with God. And it's really one of the ways you build that and mature that relationship together.
absolutely. And that's what a relationship actually is with our kids or with our wife. Like if we're having to pretend to be something we're not, or we have to
Yeah.
pretend to feel something we're not feeling regularly, then I mean that's not really a relationship. That's like a what is that? That's like a sitcom.
You're
Like,
playing a
we're
part.
just an actor in a movie, and that's not what God calls us to. That's not that's not what it means to walk with him. And
Yeah.
it's a messy process, and it's not pretty, and thankfully it's between God and I. So
Right.
I don't I don't have to admit to many of my faults, unless you and I are tight. But that said, I appreciate you pointing that out, because it wasn't until about that point in my life where I realized, look, I don't have to be the perfect dad to my children. If I'm in relationship with them, it's sharing authentically with them. I don't have to be the perfect husband to my wife. It's an authentic relationship with her that we can walk that path together. And the same could be said about being a perfect Christian, quote unquote. A little Christ would be the one who walks in relationship with God.
Yeah, absolutely. So your background, and for folks who might not know you, your background is in fitness. It's in health, it's in nutrition, it's that part of the world. One of the things I'm fascinated by is this idea of connecting fitness and faith. And you and I share a common faith. You have the expertise in fitness, which I certainly don't have.
Mm.
So from what you've learned and studied and shared, how do those two relate, if they even do at all? What's the connection between faith and fitness?
It's such a good question. For me, this is something I've wrestled with for most of my life, because I don't know if you get this sense, but sometimes when you do things, you find yourself watching yourself do those things. Like, let's say you do something over and over again for a period of time. I've been a runner for a long time. I like to run. It's one of the cardiovascular, torture mechanisms I appreciate. So I go running, and I've been doing that for a really long time. It's been a part of my prayer life. It's been a part of my fitness life. It's been a part of my coping mechanism. It's been a way that I explore the world. It's a discipline that I come to, and I don't always feel like it, but I do it, right? But at some level, you might go, why do I run all the time? What the heck's up with this? Oh, I maybe my knee hurts and I would like to continue running. Why does it matter to me so much to run? And so many of the things that I've wrestled with in connecting my faith and fitness journey have been watching myself do things and wondering why that's occurring that way. Why do I find so much peace from running, for instance?
Yeah.
One of the verses that comes to mind is from Hebrews, and Paul says, well, Paul may not have written Hebrews, we don't know. But anyway, the verse that comes to mind is, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. What's really interesting about that verse to me, like when I was a kid, I remembered the hearing in Sunday school that faith the size of a mustard seed could move mountains. It's like, I don't know what that is, but I need more of that, like some kind of magical hocus pocus, like I've got faith,
Yeah.
kind of like Matilda, just a cooler, manlier version. Anyway, so you read this verse, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And I don't know about you, but when I was 12, that just made me mad. I'm like, thanks, that doesn't tell me anything. It was
Right.
like real poetic language that I couldn't understand. But for me, when considering the idea that the substance of the things that we hope for and the evidence of the things that we can't see, when the rubber meets the road, I think that fitness is almost an embodiment of that idea. So when I go for a run, or when I teach a client to pick up a heavy bar because they have some health and fitness goals, maybe some pain they're trying to overcome, maybe some muscle they'd like to grow, maybe there's some things in their life that they feel is out of place, and that this exploration fitness is part of exploring that. When the discipline of fitness, that thing you do every day, begins to be something that you do every day, I feel like that in itself, if it's aligned properly, is a step of faith, so to speak. We talk about, I think in James, it says that faith without works is dead. And so in the fitness world, when you look at your life and say, I need to make some improvements, maybe I need to be around better for my kids, maybe I need more energy, maybe I need to stop, wallowing in my back pain, or whatever it is, I need to lose 100 pounds, whatever that thing is that you decide, hey, something needs to happen here. And I'm not saying deadlifting or running or whatever is going to fix it immediately, but it is a step of faith. It's a step in that direction. And the thing I love about the way fitness affects the biological mechanism of the body is you don't get immediate returns. Like, you don't go for a run and suddenly lose 50 pounds, like, in fact, a lot of people, when they start their fitness journey, see the opposite thing happen in their weight loss journey. They're like, I'm working out, man. Why'd I gain 5 pounds? What's up with that? And there's a reason for that we can get into if you care to. But the point is the regular showing up of this discipline, the coming into your run, or coming into your hiking, or coming into your push-ups, or whatever it is, that discipline in my mind is a step of faith. And so I think that's where those things kind of come together for me, and one of the reasons that it's been such a spiritual thing for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I really, really like that. That's a perspective I haven't heard before. And for me personally, I've struggled with my weight for since I was, I don't know, 20 years old. Done a lot of yo-yo. The heaviest I've been is over 300 pounds.
Mm.
A couple years ago, I was down to like 190. Now I'm back up again. So you mentioned one of the things you mentioned in there that caught my attention, and I'm sure other people as well. You said, well, I started working out and then I gained 5 pounds. So what I don't want to dig too far into that, but just at the high level, why would that happen?
Yeah, great question. So right now in our world, we think, I say we, quote unquote, the health and fitness industry talks about exercise like it is a way to burn calories. So I exercise, I run, I do whatever. And so I'm burning calories. And the goal is to burn more calories than I eat, right? That's the accepted way of thinking about exercise and nutrition. What I would encourage people to consider instead is exercise as a stressor that adapts you at the genetic level. meaning that when you exercise, and this isn't my opinion, this is science, when you exercise, you are asking your body to deal with a new stressor. So you're saying, hey body, you're not strong enough for this. You're not quite endurable enough for this. Hey, you suck at moving oxygen, so we need to get better at that. Like, and everybody's felt that. If you're there in Colorado Springs, you get to hang out on the Manitou Incline if you so, and if you're inclined to. That's my only dad joke today. Don't worry, I won't quit my day job. But that's like Jacob's ladder. You walk up a mile of stairs, right? And the whole time you're like, this is terrible. Whose stupid idea was this, right? And what's happening at the cellular level is your cell is being stressed. It's the cells in your body are saying we don't have enough oxygen. Well, that's not where it ends. Your DNA actually has to turn on and say, hey, we have to get some more mitochondria in here. We need more blood volume. We need these muscles to get a little larger. We need to store some more carbohydrates, blah, blah, blah. And so what I encourage everybody to think about with regard to their exercise is not just calories burnt. It's an adaptation to the system. And so when people first start exercising, if you're deconditioned and you haven't lifted weights or you haven't been doing regular cardiovascular exercise, and you start a program, sure, you're going to burn more calories, but one of the things you're going to do is you're going to signal to your body that you need an increase in blood volume. And so one of the things that happens to people is they can actually gain somewhere between 1 and 3 liters of blood volume in the initial stages of their training. That's a good thing. Arguably, that's a fantastic thing. It helps you to move oxygen. It's really helpful to get, oxygen's a primary component of being able to burn fat as a fuel source. Fat molecules have no oxygen built into them, and oxygen's required to release ATP. So if you're sucking wind and you can't get that oxygen to your cells because you don't have enough blood, well, guess who's going to suck at burning fat as a fuel source? Give us an award. So
Yeah.
So one of the things that happens when we first start exercising is blood volume increases. Another thing that happens when we first start exercising is any dormant muscle tissue that we've had on our body that hasn't been used is going to fill with water. And not just water, it's metabolically active fluid. Your body's like, hey, you've had these muscles for a while. Maybe it's your hamstrings, maybe it's your glutes, and we've been sitting on our butt a lot, haven't been using them. All of a sudden they're like, hey man, wake up, we got stuff to do. The guy's climbing a mountain here. So what happens is all of your dormant muscle tissue starts to get heavier. In a good way, it's active. From a caloric perspective, you're going to burn more calories all day because it's doing its thing. But that's an adaptation. That's you signaling to your body that we got stuff to do more than just, getting to the pantry or driving to work. And then the last major adaptation that can happen is inflammation. So inflammation is actually not a bad thing. It's a relatively negative buzzword if it gets out of hand. But inflammation is actually the process that our body goes through in order to make these adaptations. So if you've done squats and you haven't done squats in a long time, but you did squats, then tomorrow it's going to hurt to sit down. Why? Well, the nervous system's inflamed because it's going through the process of adaptation. Well, anybody who, I don't know, eats dairy but gets inflamed by dairy knows that they can gain 2 pounds. And women know this at a certain time of the month when their whole body is like, for whatever reason, we're going to retain water. Inflammation weighs more than not inflammation. Being in a state of recovery weighs more than not being in a state of recovery. And so for all of these reasons, somebody can start a program of exercise, and those adaptations are initial, that first month or so, maybe even 8 weeks, depending on how deconditioned you are and how intense the program is. All of those things can result in weight gain that's not necessarily bad weight. Blood volume, muscle volume, inflammation, those aren't bad weight metrics, but your scale's going to tell you that your program's not working. And it's important to know the difference between the weight gained because of initial adaptation and weight gained because you're not doing anything. That's different.
That's awesome. I haven't heard most of that. The only part that I've heard is that sometimes you'll add the water weight, so to speak, but the blood volume, the inflammation, none of that I had heard before. That was great stuff. And you mentioned in there you step on the scale. What are your thoughts in general on using the scale when somebody's either trying to lose weight, like me, raising my own hand, or just in general, body image concerns, things like that. What are your thoughts on? I know some people like just throw the scale away. Where
Yeah,
where
hey,
where do you fall on that spectrum?
yeah, fair enough. I've worked with people for 15 years in all walks of life, mostly weight loss. Many of the people who've hired me in my career have been those who are working on weight loss. And I could see why that, folks would say throw the scale away. It's because, weight's a weird measure. The food you ate this morning makes you weigh more. So I had a physics gal I was connected to at Vanderbilt when I went there for undergrad. And she was like, you know what happens when you eat a 1 pound cheeseburger? You gain a pound. Like, because that's what happens when you eat a one
Yeah.
pound cheeseburger. Uh, but what I would tell people about the scale is that it's actually a very helpful measure if you have some protocols around when you measure and how you measure. So people who measure daily, that's like, if you're tied to whether or not you're making progress daily and you're weighing yourself daily, you better stop or get used to looking at trends, because weight loss doesn't happen linearly. Like, you're not going to weigh, let's say you lose 2 pounds in the next week. It's not going to be like, today I weighed 200 pounds. Tomorrow I weigh 199.6. And then the next day I weigh 199.2. That's not at all how it happens. I mean, you've been on a weight loss journey, like, it
Hmm.
goes up
Yep.
and down and up and down and up and down. And hopefully the downs are lower every time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I generally recommend for my weight loss clients, especially for those that we have implemented a fasting practice, which we can talk about if you like, is that we weigh in the same state, fasted, and we do it twice a month, unless there's reasons to do it more often. So, for instance, let's say I have a client who fasts on Sundays. Well, then Monday morning, twice a month, Monday morning is the time that we hop on the scale and we look. And the reason we do that is because that's really a true weight. After you've been fasted, you've reduced most markers of inflammation. You've gotten rid of whatever is in your digestive tract. You've given your body an opportunity to burn whatever fat it needs to burn, and clear out the different things that weigh heavy on you, and then you can step on the scale. So that said, I think the scale is actually a helpful measure if we're measuring what it is that we're actually trying to make a difference in, which is, I mean, how much do I truly weigh, given all of
Yeah.
the things that
And
could fluctuate?
cool. And I like how you mentioned essentially make sure that you're weighing yourself consistently. Like you were saying, okay, if you're going to fast Sunday, then you weigh yourself Monday morning,
Mhm.
not whatever Wednesday afternoon, right?
Right, right.
And so that way you have some understanding of the state of your body when you're getting on the scale. That does make sense.
Well, it's
And
like your yearly
go ahead.
checkup with your doctor, right?
Yeah.
Because they use total cholesterol to HDL ratio, LDL, blood glucose, and triglycerides, and they say, hey, this is a decent, low cost measure for whether or not you're trending in a bad direction health wise. They don't let you do that at 8 p.m. after your anniversary dinner.
Right.
Why? Well, your triglycerides and your blood glucose and your LDL cholesterol, all those are going to be wonky because you're in the middle of digesting that stuff, right? And dealing with the day-to-day stress. When do they do that? They tell you, I need you fasted for at least X hours. If you have a really good lab, they want you fasted for 24 hours. Some of them will let you fast for 12, whatever it is. And actually, what's funny is if they measure you and you have some weird numbers, they're like, okay, we're going to do a real measure now. Next week, I want you to come back in, but you can't eat the day before, and we're going to look and see what those real measures are, because this marker is a little off. I think that if we treated our weigh-ins very similarly, that as a measure would be much more reliable on the weight loss journey.
Yeah. Yeah. That all makes so much sense. And when you were talking there and talking about blood measurements and cholesterol measurements and stuff, the majority of the people listening to this show are going to be guys. And as guys are getting older, we're always concerned about our testosterone levels, in terms of something that we can be measuring there.
Mm.
What's sort of the recommended nutrition, the recommended fitness, the recommended health routine for a guy, and I'm raising my hand again, who needs to improve testosterone levels. Hey guys, very quick break here. If you're looking for a community of like-minded Christian men to walk the walk of life together with, check out the Significant Man Fellowship. We meet every week to learn, laugh, hold each other accountable, and just do life together. You know the lone wolf thing just doesn't work. So check out the fellowship and see if it's right for you. And if you want to take it to the next level and experience an amazing 4-day and 3-night immersion experience here in the glorious Colorado mountains, apply to be one of the few men who attend our Significant Man Base Camp event. It's not a mega retreat, it's a small group of dedicated Christian men who are committed to improving themselves as husbands, fathers, friends, and leaders. So check that out. All right, back to the
What's
sort of the recommended nutrition, the recommended fitness, the recommended health routine for a guy, and I'm raising my hand again, who needs to improve testosterone levels as well?
Good question. So following this show, I will send you a quick infographic that has my top 5 ways to boost your testosterone thing. That doesn't include a needle or random supplement. so
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I can send those to you so that I don't make people's heads spin here. But
Sure. Yeah, and I'll post those so guys don't have to try to memorize all this. So yeah, go ahead.
right, yeah. So that said, the top things that are going to make a difference in a guy's testosterone from a lifestyle perspective, it's sleep. Period. If you aren't sleeping well, if you're not sleeping enough, if you're not sleeping deeply, if you're not sleeping uninterrupted, those sorts of things are going to just plummet your testosterone. And it's not because sleep is magical testosterone inducing thing. It's that if you're under recovered, so that means in your sleep cycles you're not getting growth hormone to proliferate cells and all that stuff, then that's going to increase the release of cortisol in your body, and that's going to pull from the resources that your body can make testosterone with. And so what that means for you is lack of sleep is going to crush your testosterone numbers. This might be one of the primary reasons that guys with a new baby in the house have a significant decrease in testosterone, and that's a very well studied phenomenon. We think there might be more to it, and by we I mean the scientific community, but there might be more to it than just sleep deprivation. But sleep deprivation has the ability to drop your testosterone down to 1/3 of what your body wants it to be if you
Wow.
were sleeping well. So hey, I get it, there are a couple nights that maybe you got to work late, maybe there's drama with the teenager, maybe you got to stay up with the wife for a reason, you got to get up early, I get it. But if that's the norm, if 6 out of 7 days a week you're not getting the amount of sleep that is restorative and feels good to you and whatnot, then that's certainly going to affect your testosterone.
Hmm.
The second major one is your compound weight training. So even if you're not really into lifting weights, doing push-ups, squats, lunges, and pull-ups, just those 4, that hits literally every muscle in your body in some form or fashion. And you don't even have to do a lot of it. It's actually been shown that 10 to 20 minutes of work 3 times a week can elevate your testosterone. So those of you who are listening and you're a little more conditioned, that's not going to be enough for you. You're going to have to, hit some leg press and deadlift some weight and that sort of thing. But weight training, specifically that compound movement, getting several large muscle groups all together, it's kind of like telling your body testosterone's if you want to call it the manly hormone. That might not be quite politically correct, but whatever. If testosterone's the manly hormone, then you get it doing manly things. And what does a man do? Well, he fights mammoths with his bare hands, and that's really hard work, right? So so it's kind of
Hard to
signaling to
find
the
one
body.
too.
Yeah, it's very hard to find a mammoth, so we're stuck with pull-ups and push-ups, dang it. But so that's number 2. And then number 3, from a nutrition perspective, vitamin D and sugar are like on par. I don't know which one to talk about, so I'll just say both of them. You need enough vitamin D. It's the precursor to almost every sex hormone in your body. If you're not getting enough sun, take it orally, and go test it if you're not sure. And that, just if every guy could get his vitamin D on par, and at least not just like I'm not deficient, but like optimal, that would be really powerful for testosterone. And if every guy could get a handle on their sugar intake, if you're working out really hard and you have a relatively intense regimen and whatnot, then your body's going to use that sugar. But if you're having trouble with blood sugar such that you have to be medicated in order to keep it in a good range and stuff, it's a good time to get a handle on those simple carbohydrates, because that blood sugar roller coaster can be influencing your sleep and can be influencing your testosterone production.
Yeah, that is awesome stuff. When it comes to the like vitamin D and so on, are you a fan of just grab a regular one a day multivitamin, or actually supplementing D above and beyond that?
Yeah, vitamin D by itself usually, because a multivitamin, most of them have somewhere around 1 to 2,000 IU in them, and I there are several studies that suggest that you're not getting much out of that at all. Like, it's not sufficient to bring you out of deficiency. So if you're not somebody who's getting 20 to 30 minutes of intense UV sun on half of your body a day, that sort of thing, then supplementing, the studies actually suggest that about 5,000 IU daily is safe no matter who you are. But if you have a test to show that you're deficient, then you can get up in that 10,000, even 20,000 IU daily. And there are some reasons to consider that some people need a little less than others and whatnot, and that you can get in the weeds there. But yeah, I live in Arkansas. We're below the longitudinal parallel that we actually get good UV. I get outside as often as possible, and I still keep 10,000 IU vitamin D in my bathroom drawer, and I take that on those wintry months when we're not really outside, and even if we were, the sun isn't intense enough to give us that vitamin D.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah. So it was interesting. In my mind, I was thinking let's just we'll focus on the faith stuff, and we'll focus on that. But I love kind of where we went there with that part of the conversation, because it's just helpful, and you have such great experience and background and education and all this stuff. It's great to hear your opinions on these things. So I want to loop back to a different topic that we really didn't touch on it too much. You mentioned, when you were talking on the faith and the fitness, family came in there a little bit, only in the context of being ready, so to speak. So if we go directly to that, how does fitness impact me as a father, as a husband, in life? In other words, not it's, we all look at a movie and we're like, yeah, I'd love to have a Marvel body, great, but in the day-to-day life, how does my level of fitness impact me or any of the guys listening? How does it impact us daily?
You're going to get me on my soapbox here. Let me stretch real quick. All right. No, it's so, man, it's deep. It gets deep. So shut me up if you get to a point where you're like, all right, Alex, chill out. This concept of fitness and fatherhood, for me, is down at the very core of what gets me out of bed in the morning, and it's down at the very core of how I approach fatherhood with my children. I grew up without a dad, so I'm still learning how to model something I didn't get to see every day, right? And one of the things that, the reason I founded Defining Dad Bod is I remember it was my oldest, now he's 5, he was 6 months old, and I was driving home from work. I'm a personal trainer, right? At the time, I was working for a large corporation. I had just finished working with clients all day. I'm driving home from work, and I stopped at a gas station and got a packet of Pop-Tarts, s'mores Pop-Tarts. They're the best Pop-Tarts. Got a packet at 8 p.m., and I've got like a 45-minute drive home. I could say, I needed a snack or whatever. I didn't need those stupid Pop-Tarts, but man, something was missing in my world. Like, I don't know what it was, but I needed some Pop-Tarts in my life. So I'm eating Pop-Tarts on the way home as a personal trainer with a 6-month-old at home. And I'm sleep deprived. And, my wife's hormones are kind of weird. Any dads who have hung out with postpartum wives know what I'm talking about. And I felt kind of like chopped liver and all these things and so I'm eating my Pop-Tart, right? And I get home and I pull in the driveway and I'm like, who the hell am I? Because somewhere around there, I was also like, I could go for a bourbon too. I want a bourbon and Pop-Tarts. like, who the hell am I? What is happening to me? I've been a fitness guy all my life, and now I'm eating Pop Tarts on the way home and looking forward to bourbon. This isn't the dad I want to be.
Yeah.
And so I started doing some research. Turns out, by the way, that testosterone drop that I was talking about can make you crave sweets, and you can start looking to alcohol to kind of fill in the serotonin gaps and stuff that happens. It's a whole thing. That's why I have a podcast on it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I wish those parenting books had that in there. By the way, I read a lot of them, and none of them talked about this. Sorry, dads, we're chopped liver. So somewhere in there, somewhere in the identity of a man is it, and maybe even in the integrity that I assumed that I wanted for me as a father and as a man for my boys, is how am I eating every day that lets me show up well? Not just like six-pack abs in the mirror. I'm talking like when they look at dad, is there any semblance of what I say is good versus what I do is good? Does that make sense? Am I walking
Yes.
my walk? Am I walking my talk in
Right.
my food? Am I walking my talk in my exercise? Right? Am I walking my faith in what I do in exercise and nutrition? And for some people, this disconnect is so wide that they're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But for me, it's very tied together. And the I wish I could articulate this a little bit better. This is such a good question. The the integrity that I approach my personal health and fitness practice not only helps me to show up well for my kids. I don't want a cloudy mind because I ate like garbage. I don't want to not be able to jump on the trampoline because I don't know, maybe I didn't do enough squats in the past 2 years. Like there are reasons we can't do things that aren't our fault, but it really sucks when there are reasons we can't do things that are all our fault. And so
That's good.
when it comes to fatherhood, this integrity allows me to be the father I would like to be every day. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but kind of remove some of the obstacles that I might have put in my own path had I continued to eat s'mores, Pop Tarts, and drink bourbon every night. But similarly, there's another aspect to it, which is that our kids don't do what we say; they do what we do. And so I see this big landscape of fatherhood where our children are watching what we're doing. And if we're hoping to raise up a generation that, I don't know, does crap better than we did it, then I hope that some of the habits that we pass on to them is something they can just take for granted. My 5-year-old knows how to construct a plate with protein, carbs, and fats. And as weird as that would sound to some people, like I know adults who can't do that, and they pay me to teach them how to do that. And my 5-year-old is just like, hey, I don't have any fats on my plate. Where are my fats? I need some fats. Like, can I have nuts? Can I get a little butter? How about some cheese? And he's naming these things because he understands that.
Yeah.
And so for me, the fitness and fatherhood thing are intertwined in the way I show up for my children every day, and also what it is that I'm passing on to them. And I hope that they live healthy, happy lives, and they don't have to worry about this nutrition and exercise thing because they just do it, and that's how they live, and they can move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, that's amazing. That really is amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just absorbing all of that. So
Yes, I said a lot, I'm sorry.
no, but it was all great. It really was. That's all. This has been great stuff here. So I want to, as we get towards kind of our close here, I started with a relatively deep question about finding God in the mountains.
Mm,
If you don't mind, can you share a little bit of, as you just mentioned here, growing up without a father? Again, since that's my world, is working with men and dealing with father issues and marriage issues and all that sort of stuff. That touches my heart when I hear stories from men about that. So, what's that journey been like for you?
God, dude, it's been hard. it's been,
Yeah,
it's been hard as hell. I mean,
yeah,
meaningful and good and just, but it's been very hard. So I grew up. I was the oldest of four, and I I saw my dad abuse my mother. I had to call the cops on him across the hallway in the apartment complex we lived in. This sweet old couple were like, "What's wrong, sweetheart?" And I was 5, and I remember saying, "Daddy's hurting mommy, and we need to call 911." And so I remember that was a traumatic memory I had to work through and journal through and all kinds of stuff. And then my mom remarried. She had 2 more kiddos, and that marriage didn't work out very well for either of them either. And I also have a memory of me sitting in my driveway. I'm 9 years old, okay, and I'm holding this teddy bear. 9-year-olds don't hold teddy bears, but I was holding a teddy bear, watching my stepdad drive off after, a couple of years of calling him dad. So I remember before he left, he looked at me and said, "You're the man of the house now." And then he drove off, and it was like, I mean, I'm old enough now to look that kid in the face and say, "No, you're not. You're not like, you're 9, bro." Like,
Yeah.
like, you're not the man of the house. That's like, don't take that on yourself. So a lot of my journey has been trying to learn what it means to be a man. And God's been good in the ways that he's provided coaches and mentors and martial arts instructors and great authors in the world who have put out awesome books that have helped me kind of piece together that picture of manhood. And I'm still kind of on that journey, but it wasn't until becoming a father and going like, you don't get to figure this out anymore, dude. Like, you're there now, like the fatherhood. Again, once that baby comes out, you can't put it back. Like, you gotta be dad now. So that kind of snapped everything together for me. And I'm not saying I figured out fatherhood at that point, but it became very real that it was a learning process that was worthy of devoting time and energy and mentorship to. So I don't know if that's answers the question or not, but that's what it's been like.
Yeah. This is such good stuff. You and I could have a conversation for hours. There's so many things that I know we have in common as well that we just don't even have the time here to get into. So I do want to just sort of leave an open-ended question for you here as we're wrapping up. What is like one final point, something that you want to expand on that we touched on or we didn't even get to, just as it relates to these ideas of faith and fatherhood and fitness, how they connect together. What's something you want to leave everybody with?
When it comes to health and fitness, it's very easy to be overwhelmed in the world. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of people that you could compare yourself to or take advice from or whatever. I hope that if you don't hear anything else from me today, if you're trying to make progress from a physical, spiritual, maybe even psychological perspective in your own fitness journey, then I would encourage you to take the philosophy to heart that you can become 1% better every single day. And that is a worthwhile endeavor. When you're going through the space of trying to balance fitness and family and business and all of the things that guys tend to have to juggle in their world, trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at your fitness journey is a very, very good way to set yourself up for short-term success and long-term failure. I would 100% espouse the idea that instead of doing that, sit on the edge of your bed and think, what is one thing that I'm doing that I need to stop doing and that I'm willing to stop doing? Write that stuff down. Tell your wife about it. Put it on your bathroom mirror and do the same thing with what is one thing I'm not doing that I need to start doing. Write that thing down. And then the last thing I'll say about that is in Matthew, and actually in the Gospels, Christ said, if any man wishes to be my disciple, he would deny himself, pick up his cross, and follow me. And then he also says in the Gospels that, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. And those two things almost seem incongruous because a cross is a heavy thing. I built one. I carry it around just to because I'm a weirdo who has to feel it, like maybe that's part of the fitness thing. But the that that seems incongruous. And what I've come to is that in your journey of betterment, if you can surround yourself with people who are also trying to be better, the cross feels a little lighter that you carry every day. And so that's what I would say. Don't try to do everything all at once. Work to become 1% better daily. That's the best you can ask of yourself, and don't do it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so good because, as you know, us guys, we often have this attitude, since we're so good at compartmentalizing and we're so good at dividing things up. We're like, okay, I'm all in. Today's the day. I bought $5,000 of new equipment. I'm fasting for the next 48 hours starting right now. I'm doing all of it, and so that's a great way to phrase that. Just do the one thing. Cut out the one thing, add the one thing. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
All right. So, I'm sure guys are going to want to get more from you. They're going to want to hear more from you. They're going to want to learn more. I'll post all your various links and things, but what's the best way for people to learn more about you and to connect with you?
So we're everywhere in Defining Dad Bod and Better Daily. The two places you can go. One, if the spoken word is helpful to you, some of the things that Warren and I have gotten to rap about today, go check out the podcast, the Defining Dad Bod podcast. We have over 100 hours of things along these lines, things as hardcore as divulging the truths of a scientific article, all the way to, I did a show on what Cobra Kai on Netflix has to do with your health and fitness journey. So there's a lot going on in there. And then the second thing you can do, and if you want to get a little bit deeper, we have a paid application community called Better Daily, and you can download this in the Apple Store. You can download it on the Google Play Store, and you can also find it at definingdadbod.com/betterdaily. And there is our community. You could think of it kind of like a social media community, minus the advertisements and political rhetoric, if that's something you don't much appreciate. So that would be the other way to get connected.
And also minus, I don't know if you saw that the post office is monitoring social media posts. I'm like, why in the world is that happening?
What?
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. Maybe I'll put a link for that in our notes here as well. Yeah, the post
Snap.
office is monitoring social media posts. So yeah, any way we can we can kind of avoid that is fine for me. Just let us communicate, let us talk, let us have our conversation. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I get, I suppose. Open a brand new door right at the end of the show when we're closing that up.
So let's let the post office see you doing deadlifts and going for your run. That's what
perfect. Yes, that's the perfect way to wrap up here. Well, hey, it was so great having you on here. Really appreciated your time. Thanks for everything you were talking about. All good stuff. I know guys are going to go check you out. So thanks again, man. Have a great day.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, before you go, please make sure you subscribe to this show and leave a review. 5 stars is, of course, the desired number of stars. So be like all the cool kids and do that. Enjoy the next show, guys.